Hi guys, welcome back to Hairdryer Treatment. Ladies in Red is back and it's a special one. We've got some new guests on today and I'm really excited to introduce them to you. I'll start with you, Nat.
Hey.
Thanks for coming on. How are you doing?
I'm good. I can't wait to be on. Thanks for having me on.
Absolute pleasure as always to get you on. Buzzing to talk about obviously the game yesterday, but we're going to touch on the women's side as well. Plenty of stuff to be talking about there, so we'll be getting onto that definitely. And Alice, of course, thank you. This is your debut on Hairdryer Treatment. Get my words out. Thank you so much for coming on. How are you doing?
Hello. Yeah, thank you for having me on, and I'm doing good, thank you.
Good to hear, good to hear. So obviously, the thing in common is we're all United fans. It seems like a bit of a stupid question to say how you're feeling after yesterday's game, but I mean, I'll start with you again. I mean, after that yesterday, how did you feel? Because obviously, it's in the heat of the moment, a lot of people were disappointed, but no, the dust has settled a little bit. How would you summarise that game?
No, still be disappointed. I think, it's a semi-final. You've got to be winning these games. And, it's the fourth semi-final we've had and we haven't, capitalised. I sort of said it to you and I know we'll go on to it, but, clinicalness, we didn't take our chances. We did have a few good chances and I just think their defence, Ruben Diaz, we didn't know how to get past him. And I think, top teams, you need to have more than that in the tank. And I think we really miss Cavani. Really, really, really. I think he would have been a difference. I know you can't sort of sit and dwell on one player, but, he should have, been playing and who knows what would have happened. But really, we can't have any complaints. The better team won. It's sad to see, but we've just got to focus on where we're at now. And Premier League, we're doing really well and we can't let this derail the whole season just on, getting beat in a semi-final.
Yeah, I think for a lot of fans as well, obviously it's Man City and you always want to beat your rival. But the fact that it's another semi-final as well, it seems like we jinxed at the minute. A lot of people questioning mentality, for example. Is that coming into it? Do you think that's the case, Alex, or do you think it's simply a case that City were the better team, they won, and then maybe on another night it could have been us?
It's frustrating to lose another semi-final, and I just felt like the players owed us to win this. They'd lost 3 and they always talk about getting better. And I thought the first half we were the better team, but I think City did deserve to win, and I think it's down in a weird way to Ollie. I don't think Ollie changed anything up. I think it took 75 minutes to make the first sub, and I think City won because of our errors, not because I think they were good, but the goal probably should have put his foot out. And I thought 75 minutes in and Ollie makes his first sub. You've got 5 subs. It's not working. I think we've always sort of sat deep and counter-attacked Manchester City because their defence has actually always been quite vulnerable.
Yeah.
And then I think Diaz coming in, their defence is much, much stronger. And I felt like their counter-attack wasn't going to be as successful against Manchester City as it was before because they've now got this new solid centre-back that's made them stronger at the back. So I was just like, this counter-attack in football isn't going to work. And I do think maybe if Ollie had played you'd have played a higher line, so there'd be less of a gap between midfield and defence. The midfielders would have got on the ball a bit more. I do think the attackers let us down and they weren't clinical, but they didn't have that much of the ball compared to the Manchester City attack. And I just think maybe if we had Bailly and we'd be attacking maybe Van der Beek in from McTominay, but you know what, we're in a good run of form, we're good confident. Maybe if we went and attacked Manchester City, we could have possibly got something out of it because I just felt we were losing. I think we were losing it in midfield. I think defence obviously was errors, but I think we lost it in midfield, and I think we just were a bit starved at the ball, and they outrun us. And I think they were better, but I do think that Ollie was maybe a little bit naive in the tactics, not changing up.
I agree. You mentioned Diaz there. For me, I would have given him man of the match. I think he blocked everything. He was just a rock at the back for them. And then you look at us defensively, and we're just so vulnerable. You just know that we're going to concede. And I said that's what frustrated me so much about yesterday is the fact that we weren't carved open. It was just simple switching off or simple poor clearances, basic errors really that cost us. And that's the frustrating thing, I think. But you know what? That game's done. We have to move on. We have to look forwards. And obviously we've got another cup tie at the weekend. I'm expecting some rotation. And we'll see where we go with that one. But one player in particular I'm expecting to see is Van der Beek. Now, you mentioned the late substitutes, Alice. The fact that he came on with, 4 minutes to do... I mean, his morale must be on the floor at the minute. To come on in a game like that, I was scratching my head at it. I mean, Nat, what's your whole thoughts on the Van der Beek situation?
I don't know. I think he's coming good and then he's coming out and... there was times when he sort of started a few games and potentially didn't have the impact that we would have wanted. And then I think a bit like Alice was saying, it's like, is it a naivety with Ollie and his tactics? And, I mean, he can win against big teams. We've seen him win against big teams, but it just seems to be, when it matters, like you say, maybe, like, I sort of think maybe it is a mental thing. You know, I think once we get past our first semi-final, maybe that's it. We'll go on and we'll win a lot of things. But, you know, for me, I was not really confident, but I was most confident going into that. I think we're in fantastic form, and I just think it's a bit of a downer, but it's not going to derail it all. And I don't want it to derail it all. And I think, you know, we're doing so well. And I think I do see progression in that team. And I think Van der Beek is a quality player. And, like, I think we'll see him tear it up on Saturday. But, you know, bringing a guy on for 4 minutes is just a joke. And I don't know what he was thinking doing that. Maybe he thought he could change it up like he did against Palace, you know, scored that one goal, but he had it a lot longer than 4 minutes to do it.
Yeah, I mean, 4 minutes, you can't really do a lot in that time. I felt for him, to be fair. I did feel for him, a big signing coming in. But it does make you question, is he a Woodward signing rather than being an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer signing? And that's why he's not getting into it. But I just hope we see more of him, because I do think when we have seen him so far, he's played well and I have been impressed. Don't worry, Silver Shadow Meg's on her way. She's just trying to sort her Wi-Fi. She'll be with us very, very shortly. She's joining us. Technical difficulties as usual, like we like to say on hairdryer treatment. But yeah, Van der Beek, I hope that he plays at the weekend. Another player that I want to touch on is Martial. I'm going to let you start with this one, Alice. But Tony Martial, struggling to get at the moment, isn't he? Do you think it's a case where he'll get one and then maybe the rest will follow? Or do you think that maybe it's time for Cavani to come in when he's allowed to, of course?
Oh, it's a tough one, because I actually thought Martial was starting to get better. He had like 3 or 4 decent games in a row, scoring it. He got his Premier League goal. I think with Martial, he's just a little bit inconsistent and a confidence player. And we saw him in June, was it? He got the hat-trick versus Sheffield United. He went on a scoring spree. He got 71 penalty goals in the Premier League, which was a really good tally. I think a few players got more. Yeah. So we know that he's capable of performing at the high level. And we know that he offers a lot of assists. He actually got like quite a few assists last season as well. And he has really good link-up play with Rashford. And I think he's an important player because he impresses the players around him. But he's a player that, like, when he has a bad game, he can go through a bad patch. And we can't afford for our number 9 to go through a bad patch. So I think Martial, he will improve. And I think he just needs a bit of a mental bit of confidence. And I did think he was starting to prove. He did lack again today, like, Big City. And I think a bit of that was he didn't get much of the ball, I do feel. But finishing, is everything about this game, it still seems okay, but his finishing, I still think he's decent holding the ball, connecting the play. You know, he's got loads of assists already this season. Yeah. But I just think it's confidence and finishing, and I just think he needs a few goals, and then I think he could go on a good run again, because, you know, the end of last season he was brilliant, and I do like Cavani, and obviously Cavani in his prime is better than Martial in his prime, but Cavani I don't think can do every game, and I just think Cavani's been better than Martial for sure, but I think Martial and Rashford have that just connection that I feel like Cavani with Rashford a little bit. I think Cavani's a better finisher, but I think the ball Martial is more. So I think Cavani's good for competition, but I do think at the end of the season I expect Martial to step up, and I hope he does.
Yeah, I hope he does as well. There's no doubt in his talent, but I do think he's a big confidence player, Martial. I do think there's that lack of service there. I agree with that. For me, I don't know if you girls agree on this one, but if there's a player like Martial who is a confidence player, he's not hitting the net, and he's struggling to finish those chances, struggling to forget chances at the minute, I would move him out onto either the left-hand side or the right-hand side, probably the left, because we know he scored a lot of goals cutting in, and then maybe play Rashford the other side and Cavani in the middle. Now, obviously, I know Cavani's suspended at the minute, so we can't do that, but that would be my ideal front three, because I think it takes the pressure off Martial having to get a goal. Like you say, his link-up play is superb as well. He loves cutting in off that side, and he's more effective that way. And I think if he's low on confidence, that wouldn't hurt him, just to take the pressure off his shoulders. Look, we're not relying on you to score all the goals. Maybe he can provide a few more, and putting him out wide, I don't know. I like him out in that wide position. Nat, what's your take on that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he started there, didn't it? You know, when he first came in, he was tearing up the league on that left. And for me, I think having him, like you say, it's that confidence. And even I think Ollie sort of touched on it. Cavani's a totally different striker. Cavani's like that clinical, and he's not really said it like that, but I've just heard little comments that he has made and saying like Ederson brings something different. And I think, you know, like you said, you could have the two, Rashford and Martial on the wing, and then even I've seen someone saying there in the comments, start Greenwood, and why not? I'm not saying starting, but you could have brought him on at 9 and then had them two on the wings, and then making assists in for him. But I don't know. I mean, Ollie must be doing a lot of that in training. Must be. I just So for me, it's just hope that Cavani comes back on his form and, you know, see what he can do. You all right, Meg?
I'm back. I'm here. Apologies, everyone, that I am late to the show, but apparently my Wi-Fi didn't get the memo that it was a 6 o'clock start. So apologies.
It's always Wi-Fi. We always have difficulties, don't we, on this channel? But we plod along. That's what we do. We're resilient. Meg, I'll let you touch on Tony Martial. We're talking about his form at the minute. Do we think that it might suit him a bit more to go out wide and Cavani playing that central role when Cavani is back, of course? What do you think about Martial? Do you think it's just simply a confidence thing with him?
Yeah, I think we have a lot of players up front that are playing up front anyway is a confidence-based role, isn't it? Like, scoring brings more scoring. When you are confident, you take on more shots, you get more goals. When you've got that little bit of niggle in your mind saying you haven't scored for a while, less confidence. But I actually think what you said about Cavani coming in the middle, just trying to get rid of things. Cavani coming in the middle and Rashford and Martial playing off him gives a different side to Martial's game, can drive up players. It's not all about his hold-up play. And I think that might suit him just for a couple of games, just to come back into his own.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, there is news today that we have signed Diallo. I mean, it's been talked about for a while. Obviously, a young, promising talent. I mean, Alice, I'll ask you first. Are you excited by this signing, and do you think we'll see much of him this season?
I'm very excited by the signing. You know, I'd seen a few YouTube clips of him in the summer when we sort of announced that we got him. And he's a very exciting young player, and he has the potential to be what we want to be. Come into the squad away because obviously he's not playing that much first 2 minutes for Atalanta. But I think he's a player that in the future could break in. He could have that impact that Greenwood had sort of like this time a year and a half ago, going into the 1920 season. We're like, oh, we'll see a bit of Greenwood. And then by the end of the season, he broke in. So maybe in a year's time, Diallo is one of those players that will always come to the bench and have a sort of rapid Greenwood impact. But I do think we'll see him around a few games. We'll see him play 1 or 2 games by the end of the season. And hopefully he establishes himself as like maybe a player that's always on the bench for next season. Like I am excited. I do think he will be earning potential.
Yeah. A lot of people obviously been talking. I mean, I've seen clips. I'm one of these people who watch YouTube compilations and I'm going to sit here and say I'm an expert on Diallo because I'm not. But he does look like a very technical, skillful player, an exciting player, fast. But obviously, he's young, and I think it is important that we don't get too overhyped and whatnot. But it's always exciting, obviously, doing business. I mean, Nat, what's your thoughts on this signing? Are you excited to see him in a red shirt?
Yeah, I've seen and heard good things, and I think it'll be good. But I think it can be like, you know how we signed Palestri, but he's now playing in the 23s. I think it's potentially going to be like that. He will train with the first team. He'll come in, but I mean, I've seen someone saying, don't let Woodward off. It was a summer signing. And I think, yeah, we need, you know, I do think we still do need like a quality, you know, first team, right winger in there or left winger, you know, someone alongside Rashford. And then obviously, you know, either Martial or Cavani up top.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. And Vincent says, well, long time since I've heard Nat speak about the man game. Good to see Natalie come and give us one barmy army. We will talk about the women's game, don't worry, we'll touch on that as well. Meg, thoughts on the news today about our new signing?
I think, well, I know it's a summer signing, but it's a good start to the window. We've got someone else in. I don't think we'll see much of him this season. I think he will almost get like Nat said, like filed away like Palestri in the under 23s. But he's young. He's a raw talent, therefore, because he's young and he's still going to learn his trade a little bit. And I feel like because he's young, you can almost mould him into more of a Manchester United player. I think he's got really good attributes. Again, another player that I think will play on confidence, though, just because of his position. But I am looking forward to seeing him, like I said, young, quick, skillful. So it should be a good addition to the team.
Yeah, and obviously we've been looking at for that right wing position, Sancho, the S word, as we said last week. We're so sick of saying it. But that name's going to be circulating a lot, we know, this month. But yeah, I'm excited to see him. He's young, like I say, but for me, these are the kind of signings that we've been missing out on. I mean, Robertson is always an example I give at Liverpool, a player who stood out at Hull, really promising. Liverpool snapped him up and now he's gone on to be one of the best left-backs in the world. And I think we need to be making more of those signings. We don't need to sign ready-made players. We don't need to sign big names. I'd rather us breed our own. And so I'm excited by this kind of... I like the way that we're going with the signings. We're not getting these Galacticos. And hopefully they do turn up to being these class talents that they're definitely hyped up to be at the moment. So yeah, I'm excited about it. I really am. But at the same time, I'm not having too high expectations for the kid because he's a kid at the end of the day. But fresh players, it's always good to see, isn't it? But Watford at the weekend, Dean has been talking a lot about us, I know, on TalkSport when he's had a few slots on there. I've seen it over Twitter and whatnot. Do you expect it to be a really weak and tight team? Blah, words out again. Meg, if you can tell me, how many changes do you think we'll make? Do you think that it'll be a complete rotation, or do you think it'll be a case where players like Boyer, for example, might come back in?
I think we'll see. If I name the players that I think we'll definitely see, because I think we'll see Lingard. I think we'll see Van der Beek. I'm still 50-50 on Bailly. I don't know whether, I know people want to see him, but I don't know whether will give another game to Lindelof. It's like protect Eric Bailly at all costs. And is the Watford game the one game that you want to be putting him in for? But I definitely think we'll see Lingard, and I definitely think we'll see Van der Beek. And I think we might have Henderson in goal rather than De Gea.
Yeah, Henderson made a few good saves yesterday, to be fair. I mean, Nat, what's your thoughts on it? Do you think we'll rotate a lot?
Yeah, I think we'll see the players that Meg said, and I think potentially we might see Dan James start, because he was, he's come from Swansea, he was Championship. I'm not saying that, that, but I think just put some confidence into him. He's plays a few games here and there, so I think we'll see him play. I think it'll be a different team. Won't be like sort of the strongest 11, but it'll be giving them players the minutes that they need, to build up the confidence. I mean, potentially you might still get Martial down the middle, just to, like you say, build up the confidence, maybe try and get him a goal.
Yep. I think that's a good game to play him in the middle, to be fair, but he just needs a service, and that's what we've been struggling with. But give him the service, and I have no doubt Martial will score sooner rather than later. De Gea, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, when a lot of big teams attack, we see 5 or at least 6 in the box. When we attack, only 3 in the box most times. All of our players stay back a bit more. What do you think? Completely agree. There's a time where Rashford yesterday whipped in a wicked ball, and there's no one stood in the area. And I remember literally saying at the time, Cavani would have been on the end of that. Because Cavani is that number 9, and I think that Martial hasn't got that natural instinct. I'm not saying Martial isn't a good player, but I don't think he has the natural instincts of a striker the way that Cavani does, and that's why you say Cavani brings something a bit different. I mean, what's your thoughts on that, Alice? Do you think that is the reason why we have less in the box, because we haven't got that instinct almost?
I think partly, yeah. I think Cavani's positioning has proven to be better than Martial. I think he's in the box more. I think was it Southampton with the header. He's just there. You know the run. He knows where to move. But I do think tactically there has been times where we've set up quite defensive and not willing to run forward. I think maybe to protect the slow centre back pairing of Maguire and Lindelof. It was normally Lion Fred. They would sit quite deep.
Yeah.
Obviously, Leeds, we saw Tomalai making runs. He scored 6 goals. I think versus Leeds, McTominay ran in. And part of it's tactics. There's games when McTominay's run ahead of Bruno when we score goals.
Yeah.
But it's, and then we do sit back a lot. I think, with Cavani, he has obviously better positioning than Martial. He's a poacher. But I do think it comes tactically as well, how we play. Versus Leeds, we could get those 6 players up there because we were willing to attack them. Whereas versus Manchester City, we're never going to do that with Maguire and Lindelof at the back because we know one killer ball, they're dead because of their pace. So I think it's tactic as well.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I mean, this is a predicted lineup: Henderson, Wan-Bissaka, Tuanzebe, Maguire, Telles, Pogba, Matic, James, Van der Beek, Greenwood, Rashford. I mean, for me, I would probably rotate it even more than that. I mean, Nat, what's your thoughts on that lineup? Would you rotate him for more than that?
I think it's a good lineup. I think potentially play that. I would rest Rashford and put Martial in, like I said. But other than that, maybe pay Maguire and Lindelof and then put Tuanzebe on the right. I don't know, and rest Wan-Bissaka.
I'll ask you girls your thoughts on Wan-Bissaka actually, because he's a player that I find so frustrating.
I want to see Tellers.
Nat, you're lagging a little bit there. You back? Oh, she's gone. She's gone. She's disappearing act. But yeah, I think with Wan-Bissaka, I'll ask you, Alex, about it firstly, because I know I spoke to you, Meg, about him. But going forwards, I find him so frustrating. I think defensively, we know he's almost impossible to get past. But going forwards, he really lacks. And I feel like we lack on that right-hand side an outlet at times.
Yeah, for sure. I really like Wan-Bissaka, and obviously we know he's pocketed Sterling multiple times. The PSG game, defensively, I mean his positioning, it can be a little bit iffy, but one-on-one, when a player runs at Wan-Bissaka, I know they're probably not going to get past, and I do really like Wan-Bissaka, and he's young and he can grow. I think going forward he has improved, but it's like maybe his decision making and player intelligence. It just makes he keeps hold of the ball too long, and I just sometimes think whipping across, and he's not the best at crossing. We do know that, but I think there's potential for Wan-Bissaka to become better going forward. Because obviously we saw with Luke Shaw. I think Luke Shaw's a player that's improved a lot going forward. He makes those runs. It's almost like it's not even just about the crosses. I always see Luke Shaw making runs even when he doesn't get the ball, and I think Luke Shaw's one of those players that's really improved in the last year or two. And maybe with Wan-Bissaka, he's so solid defensively that maybe he just needs to improve maybe his attacking intelligence and his crossing. And I think maybe in a few years' time or even next season, we'll see him start to make these runs and maybe with confidence. But I like her, but he does frustrate me. And I just hope that because he's young, he's going to improve his all-round game. But defensively, I don't really have any problem.
Yeah, I agree. I do like Wan-Bissaka. I just find him so frustrating going forwards. Like I'm kind of ripping my hair out at times because he looks so unnatural when he's got the ball in an attacking position. And it's mad to think he used to be a winger, believe it or not. Like I can't get my head around that. But defensively, you kind of accept the fact you kind of sacrifice the attacking side of it because he's so good defensively. Because he literally is on a 1v1. It's almost impossible to get past. But yeah, Nat, what's your thoughts on Wan-Bissaka going forwards? Do you find him frustrating?
Yeah, definitely. I think he should get forward a lot more. But it's like you just said, I think I do just sacrifice. I think he's such a good defender. I think he's 1v1. He's probably the best defender that we have. So I think you just sort of take that because you know he's potentially going to stop a few, stop crosses going in, and especially against like a City, Arsenal, or not Arsenal at the minute, but you know what I mean, City, Liverpool, you need someone like that who would, stop them crosses into the box. And so I think you do have to sacrifice. And then maybe that's what we saw later. I mean, we were talking before about there's not enough people in the box. And is that, because we are going that defensive style against the big teams.
Yeah. And I think at times we almost overplay. It's like we're looking for that perfect intricate pass. I mentioned it the other day. Bruno's always looking for the fancy little flick or whatnot. And sometimes you just think, just put it in the box. Just try it. Just put it in the box. Dehaya's laughing at the fact that I always compare Wan-Bissaka to Inspector Gadget because I say the way that his legs seem to extend when he goes into tackles. Like, I don't know how he does it, but I love it. It's class. But yeah, Inspector Gadget. I mean, Meg, thoughts on Wan-Bissaka? Would you start him against Watford?
I'm not sure whether I'd give him a rest or not. I feel like we always say you play a kind of a stronger team and then make substitutions so that you can get the job done. And I feel like this game's going to be really important now we're out of the Carabao Cup to ensure that we actually get past Watford. Yes, all eyes are coming up to the Liverpool game on the 17th, but that in between them, we've still got these games to play and they're really important to make sure that we get positive results and positive performances so that when we head into that Liverpool game, momentum is with us. So I quite like the fact that if we had Aaron Wan-Bissaka, I just think it perhaps gives us a little bit more consistency because otherwise I do feel like a lot of changes are coming.
Yeah.
But have some players in that can almost like steady the ship.
Yeah, I think players like Mata as well, who, like, I love Mata. I think he's a great little player, and we kind of forget about him because we think of pace, and we need like legs on the pitch and whatnot. And you forget how intelligent Mata is. He's almost a yard ahead in his head sometimes. Like, he's just such an intelligent player, and I think that we maybe will see him. He deserves to get a game, in my opinion. And it'd be interesting to see, like Phil Jones, for example, players like that, players who seem to have slipped off the face of the earth, like we literally haven't heard from. I wonder if they're going to get a look in because Watford is a good time to rotate. And that's why I was confused that Boye didn't start against City. I felt we should have rested him against Watford at the weekend and played him against City. Because obviously you will need rotating. I get that. He's made of glass. But for me, it should have been the weekend that he should have been rested. I mean, Alice, do you think if Boye started yesterday, it would have been a different outcome? Because a lot of people do think that if Boye started, we probably would have won that game.
I don't know if I go as far as winning, but I feel like Boye would have been there to stop the corner, put his body on the line, whereas maybe that ball go through for the Stone goal. And I think we would have maybe had a better chance in the midfield battle. We lost the midfield, and I think when you play a lower line, there's more space for the midfield to cover. And the City, we were running because City sort of dominated. I think with Lindelof next to Maguire, we play deeper, which means we create less chances. And I think if we had Boye in there, we play a higher line, create more chances, and I think Bailly would have stopped that corner going in. We saw it in the last kick of the game versus Villa. Bailly will throw his line, and none of our other defenders do that. So, I mean, I thought City were good, but I do think it would have been 0-0 going into the last 10 minutes if Bailly was there instead of Lindelof, or even 1-0 United, because he probably would have created more. So, yeah, I do think Lindelof, I do think Bailly would have improved us for sure.
I think what Bailly brings as well is we could have played further up the pitch because we could allow a bit more space in behind, knowing that Bailly's pace would bail us out of trouble pretty much. But without having Bailly there, I kind of feel like we lack that pace at the back. Like I always say that if you're going to play Maguire, fair enough, but he needs pace alongside him, and Bailly complements him better than what Lindelof does, in my opinion. I mean, Nat, what's your thoughts on Eric Bailly? Were you a bit gutted that you didn't see him start yesterday?
Yeah, I think he's been like one of our best defenders really this season. I know it sounds a bit like over the top, but I think, he's come in, he's done really well. He's playing back to like the top form when we had him when we first got him. It's just that we haven't seen him a lot, and then hopefully this is sort of a start of him playing, building his confidence, because I think every player needs confidence, but building his confidence and getting game time and getting minutes and being able to play on the pitch. I agree he should have been played and then rested, but then maybe it's sort of this is where his body is. He has to rest midweek and then potentially be all right for the later games. I don't know. But for me, we just need to keep him wrapped up, safe, so he can play the big games.
Definitely. I think he's just as a character as well. I just love everything about him. I love the way he plays, but he just seems like an absolute nutcase as well. And I would hate to play against him. I just hope it stays fit, like you say. But like at the end of the day, I know we can sit and we can scrutinise and we can judge Ollie for not playing him and whatnot. We don't know the full situation. Ollie knows best, doesn't he? At the end of the day, in regards to Bailly, he knows how to protect him. He knows how vulnerable his body is. As fans, you can't blame us for wanting to see more of him because he's just so good at the back. I mean, Meg, I know you're a big Bailly fan, and I know that you were gutted that he didn't play, but surely it's bound to start for the Liverpool game. Imagine now if he doesn't start against Liverpool, Meg.
I don't want to think about that. I feel like everyone is pretty much saying Bailly is the first name on the team sheet against Liverpool, just because of the style of play, just because what he brings to the players around him, almost like, oh, we've got Bailly. And especially when we played against Villa, you saw it, like the way he literally puts his body on the line up until the final whistle, that is. He doesn't switch, well, he can switch off at times, but he literally plays right through the game, the way he plays from minute 1 to minute 90. It's a bit of a mad style. There's no denying that there are times where you think, what on earth is he doing? But he puts his body on the line, and that's all we ask as a centre back. Yeah.
This made me laugh. Do you remember the partnership when we had Bailly and Rojo as our centre backs at one point? I think it was against a game in particular, but just imagine being a forward and playing against them too. Like, you'd be absolutely terrified, like so rash as well. Just didn't care less. But Bailly definitely he sums that up. It gives Maguire confidence as well. How I said, I'd agree with that. I think if you got Bailly alongside you, because of his pace, I do think that he does help Maguire. Definitely, it just gives you an extra boost because you know that if a ball's going to go in behind you, Bailly will be there to support. And he 9 times out of 10 he wins his individual battles. You mentioned earlier, he's pocketed Sterling so many times. So has Wan-Bissaka. No, sorry, he's pocketed Vardy so many times, and then Wan-Bissaka with Sterling as well. When you win your individual battles, like that's all you ask for as a defender. But I just feel like with Lindelof, it's very rare that he wins that individual battle. Like, I think he's quite vulnerable when it gets physical. He's very good on the ball, but when it comes to his physicality, I just feel like Lindelof is a bit more vulnerable than Bailly. But he does need protecting, and I fully understand that. Going into the Watford game then, I'm going to ask you all what your predictions are, your score predictions. Get in the chat as well, guys. Let us know what your predictions are. I'll be interested to see what you're going to say. Nat, I'll start with you on this one, because Meg always moans that I always start with her, so I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to start with Nat. What's your score prediction?
I'm always confident, so I'm going to go 3-0 United.
Clean sheet as well. Love that. Clean sheet. Take it. Who do you reckon's going to score then?
I think Rashford, Martial. I know I said rest Rashford, but I just think Rashford maybe might come on, score last minute. And I don't know who else, like someone out of the blue, like maybe even like a Lingard or a Dan James, someone, they're not maybe Mata, someone like that I think might score.
Yep, 3-0. Can't argue with that. Alice, what's your score prediction?
Yeah, I was going to say 3-0 as and I'd probably say Greenwood. I expect Greenwood to get a goal and start in the game. as well.
Yeah, and I hope you're right. We're all going with clean sheets, and I really do hope you're right. Meg, as a centre back, I mean, surely you've got to go for a clean sheet. What are you going for?
I will go. I was going to go something different, but I will go with a clean sheet. I think, and I'll go for, let's say something different. Do I go for a 2 or a 4? Let's go for a 2. I think we'll play a 2. I think there'll be quite a few changes. I'd like to see if Lingard to get a goal, because I feel like it shuts so many people up, because people bang on about his stats all the time. So I'd love it if he came on and got a goal. And then I think Greenwood will score as well. But I do think it'll be a difficult game to start with.
Yeah, I don't think we can write off Watford. Definitely. We know they have quite a physical team as well. Deeney's not going to let our centre-backs rest. We know what he's like as a grafter, and I do think it's going to be a bit more difficult, but I do think hopefully we'll have enough quality to see it through. In terms of a clean sheet, I actually don't know if we will. I can honestly say I never feel confident we're going to keep a clean sheet right now, so I'm going to say a 4-1 United win. I think that's what I'm going to go for. I'm going to say a massive thank you to an old Brandy for the super chat. It says, keep up the great content, ladies. Props from Los Angeles. Wow, thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it, and I hope you're doing well. But yeah, I think 4-1 I'm going for. I think we will concede. I'm expecting it to be maybe off another set piece again, because we're so vulnerable off them. Maybe someone like Deeney, to be fair, scoring it. But I do think we'll have enough quality to win the game. Someone just made a really interesting point regarding Boye and the whole Lindelof thing. It said, I get the vibe that Ollie doesn't trust him and he prefers Lindelof. Do you think the fact that Boye is so rash and he's so off the cuff sometimes that Ollie just doesn't trust him fully? Do you reckon that could be a reason why? I mean, Meg, what's your response to that? Do you think that could contribute as to why Lindelof gets the nod most times?
Whether it's that or the fact that I just feel like Baye can't be consistent with injuries.
Yeah.
So is it because that as well? You can, and I never want to presume anything about anyone. In terms of we don't know, but it can be a bit reckless at times. But that's kind of, wasn't Vidic and Ferdinand not reckless, but almost firm but fair?
Yeah.
And I think Baye rides the line of firm but fair at some point.
Yeah, I think. But if you go on the whole trust thing, you see when Fred got booked a few weeks back, obviously in that game, and then Ollie didn't take him off. He trusted him, and then he got sent off. I don't know. I think Ollie does trust these players. Maybe you could say he trusts them a little bit too much at times. But with Eric Boye, there's got to be a reason why he prefers Lindelof. But there's no denying on current form, Boye should be starting. That Liverpool game, I fully expect Boye to start. And if he doesn't, then I'm going to be absolutely gutted. But hopefully he does. But we've spoken about the men's team quite a lot. We've given our predictions. I think it's only right now. We've got Natalie on the stream and Alice as well, obviously. And we want to discuss the women's team just briefly as well. Coronavirus, obviously, at the minute is affecting WSL amongst other women's football at the minute. I mean, what's the whole feeling in the Barmy Army in the United camp at the minute? Because obviously, so far, so good this season.
Man United women sitting top. Really playing exciting football. I know you've come on All for United with us, so talking about Lauren James, talking about Tobin Heath, world-class players we've got in now. And I think the thing that sort of the talk at the minute is the fact that loads of players travelled over to Dubai. And during a winter break, the WSL has a winter break, and then they've come back and they've come back and a couple of players have got coronavirus. This is leading to a couple of matches called off. A couple of United players went out, and it's just disappointing, I think, because I think you expect, I think when you see sort of, it's not fully breaking the rules, but, it's a professional environment. It's elite. You're getting tested week in, week out. There are key workers who are like, not getting to have a holiday. And I think you see them go off to Dubai and they've had a good time, but now the league, it's looking, this week's going to be a bit touch and go, whether we have a full schedule. And, it's just disappointing. You expected more from players. But I think that's where it's at with the women's game now. I think it's getting more people interested, more people watching. So people are going to speak out more and say it's not good enough. But, currently top in the league, we're doing good. So for me, that's a good part. But then obviously this COVID scandal for the women isn't a good look for me.
It's not. I mean, Meg, what's your thoughts on that? 'Cause we haven't actually discussed this either. Just before I get your opinion, I want to say thank you so much for the super chat to Haya. Thanks, ladies, women on top of the league, loving it, definitely loving it. Just hoping that football can resume as normal. This virus isn't going to affect it, both men and women. To be fair, there's been more cases in the men's game lately as well. I'm just hoping that football pulls through because we all know how important it is for our morale. But Meg, what's your thoughts on this whole debacle with the Dubai travelling and whatnot? Because obviously, if it was for example, Mendy held a party at a New Year. We know how much that was scrutinised and mentioned in the press. Do you think that this is as bad as that?
I think because the men's game is so much more in the press and the media, you'll hear about that more than actually the women's. But I emphasize what Nat said about with it being disappointing to see, because you are at the moment, the whole women's game it's still a battle to get people involved and interested in the game. And I think for them to hear that this has gone on, it really sets you back. But I will say that actually Twitter is normally a place of disagreement with a lot of fans between clubs, and actually everyone's singing off the same hymn sheet in terms of what fans are saying, and even to their own players are saying how disappointing it is to see that people aren't taking this as serious and have decided to go on a winter holiday to Dubai. I understand everybody would probably want to get away no matter what the situation is. You know, people who were working would probably love to have a holiday, but we are not in that position to be able to do that right now, and not have further consequences along the line. We're now seeing these consequences. The fact that the Man City game already postponed, the Arsenal game already postponed. It's inevitable that there'll be other games that will be postponed. So I think actually calling the players out and fans coming together is almost nice to see. And I know it's probably not what the players want to hear, but actually you've got a duty to be professional, and what they did wasn't as professional as it should be. However, on a more positive note, I absolutely adore Tobin Heath. She is a world class, and she's just kind of brought into the whole Manchester United women team, and the team have bought into her. Yeah. And you know, when you get a player like Bruno, I feel like that is Tobin Heath. She came in and it was a game changer.
Yeah, she seems to slot straight in, and I agree with you. I think she looks quality. I mean, you already know my thoughts on James as well, but mixing in players like Heath, it's just going to bring her to the next level as well, and I'm buzzing for it. I mean, Alice, have you seen much of United women this season, and what's your thoughts on the whole debacle with travelling to Dubai and whatnot during this pandemic?
I've kept an eye on the scores and the league. I know we're top of the league, and I think we won 6-1 was our last game or something.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I haven't watched too much of it, but I'm aware of the whole COVID debacle, all of that. And I think it's frustrating because I think most footballers are being quite sensible, but it's one of those things, it just takes one footballer to mess up and then bring it back to the camp and it to spread. I think it's frustrating more players are being sensible. It's just letting them down. And I just think, look, if you can just ride this out to the end of the season, just do not go on silly holidays, do not go away. It would be ideal, but obviously, you know, people are going to do their thing. You know, people are going to break the rules, and I think they just need to. It sounds bad, but they kind of need to be called out on it. You know, they're meant to be role models. You know, they've got to be sensible. They're letting down their teammates. They're letting down the fans. I think it's one of those situations where we can't stop it, but there needs to be that like pressure, so they don't want to break them.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and the fact that you're top of the league, like we already know how excited people are this season. The fact that we're top of the league, realistic chance of winning the title, and then you just think, do not do anything that's going to blow it. Do you know what I mean? I'd just be like, do not do anything that's going to blow it or affect it in any negative way. Purely because, I mean, a league position shouldn't make a difference, I know, but if you're top of the league, for me, especially new and upcoming team like United are in the WSL, for me, you just do not do anything that could jeopardise it in any way. So I do think it's disappointing. I think it's a word I'd use for it, but at the same time, people are human. At the same time, like they just need to know that it's wrong, basically, and they do need some form of punishment for it. But we move forward, we move on. It's pointless dallying over it. It's happened, but this whole pandemic, I think, is just horrible for everybody, isn't it? It's just such a negative, and it's horrible to have negatives added on top of that. Mike, thank you so much for the super chat. I hate being negative, but Lindy and Maggie versus Poole, we're getting smashed. Yeah, with Lindelof and Maguire against Liverpool. Boye surely has to come in for that game. If you're preserving Boye so much to drop him for City and at the weekend, surely he's going to be starting against Liverpool. And thank you, Mike, for that super chat. Really do appreciate it. My dad was in the chat. He says Ollie needs to go because he lost him a bet yesterday as well. I saw that one. He's always betting in favour of United and he hates to admit it. Always. And then George made a point. I can't believe that schools are open for a day and then closed again. My school is still open that I work in because I work in a specialist school, so I'm still in every day. So if only that was the case for me. Unfortunately, it's not Brokery. It's just stupid. But what's your thoughts, girls, on the fact that there's been more cases last week or so? Obviously, Christmas has happened and whatnot, so we knew that it was going to rise. But in terms of football in the Premier League, they recorded, didn't they, that they've had more cases. Do you think we should be worried that maybe football could be paused for a little bit again? I mean, Meg, I'll start with you on that one. Do you think that it could be paused again? And how would that affect us?
I think inevitably it will be. I don't think we'll escape it. I do feel like, however, the whole 2-week circuit breaker that they were talking about won't make a blind bit of difference. I think I truly agree with the whole what Gary Neville said about that, because what's the point? Because players will have to still, that's not long enough, because players would still be in and training. So therefore, they're not really, they're still going to be mixing. But I do think it's inevitable that we'll see more games called off. And the more that happens, the likelihood of going into a full 4-week break for the Premier League would be an option.
Yeah. Hi, Aston. I'm feeling better. I'm a little bit better. Thank you. I'm still 100%, but I'm good. I'm okay. I haven't got a temperature or anything. I'm tested regularly, so I'm okay. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it. But Nat, is there a fear, especially? I mean, I've mentioned how it's going to affect us, and I mean that in terms of the men and the women. If football is pulled again, obviously United top of the league and flying, and us in a title race at the minute, and form and luck seems to be with us. If we have another break, look at how Sheffield United came back after the last lockdown. It completely disrupted their season. It ruined their season, really. I would hate for it to have that effect on us.
Yeah, and I think the women anyway, and I mean, I love the men and I've always loved it, but for me, I love the women and the Barmy Army and everyone who can get down. I want you to all to come down and watch it, and definitely if you can just switch on a show and just watch them, it's great. But for me, I think, with the women, if it is stopped, I don't think it would come back. And I don't want to be, there's not as the same amount of money. There's not as the same amount of interest. It's not in Natalie as much. It's not on the news. So I think if they did stop the women, if it built up too much, for me, I think Man City and Arsenal, those players went out there. And I think there needs to be some kind of consequence, some kind of punishment, whether that's just giving the other team the points, because I think the games are building up. And I'm worried that if then the WSL is stopped, it won't come back, and then it's decided on points per game. And, last year it was decided on points per game, but I think we weren't really in anything. This year, you don't want anything like that deciding it. You want to be able to go out and win it yourself. You don't want, this percentage of this, and you dropped a point there. You want it to be win that title yourself. And if that was taken away from us, and even if we won it on points per game, you'd be happy to win it, but it wouldn't feel the same. It wouldn't be the same. You want to, kick that ball in the goal, and then, bang, we've won it. So I'd be disappointed. But I even think if it is stopped in the Premier League, the cases keep going up, what would happen? I think you stop, then you've got to wait. If you waited 4 weeks, then you've got 2 weeks to come back. That's 6 weeks. It's not going to happen. And we've got Euros at the end. I think something needs to give, whether it's postponing the Euros again or, I don't know. But I think no matter how long you have a break, you're going to see things, and then if you have a break, they're only going to mix with other people. Hell, you might see a couple of lads go on to Dubai, and then they come back and bring viruses back. So I just think having a break, you either play it all or you stop it. I just think having a break, it's not going to work for me, in my opinion.
I thought Natalie would be like, null and void the season. Where it's at right now, quit it right now. That's what I was expecting you to say. Top of the league, champions, null and void it right now. But nobody wants a title with an asterisk side of it, do they? Nobody wants. They said about Liverpool last season. You want to win the title. You don't want to be averaged out as winners. You want to win it, don't you? You want to win the title, and I think that is the case. We've got Oscar watching from Dallas, Texas. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you're good, Oscar. Thank you for the support. Diego says 21 likes needed for 100. Hit those likes, please, guys. If you're enjoying the content, we'd appreciate it. We are rounding it off very shortly. But Alice, do you have a fear that football could stop again? And then like Nat says, how is that going to affect the women's game? It's worrying, isn't it?
Yeah, I really hope they don't stop, but the way it's going, it's just going up and up and up in cases. You know, it's been nearly 2 weeks since Christmas, and I think that's when everyone mixed. I knew we were probably going to go into a lockdown in January. I think it's quite predictable. I think the men's game, it's one of those, it could have a little break and continue, but I do think with the women's game, you know, if it doesn't make the same amount of money as the men's, they're less interested to continue on. And I do think that's a shame, because obviously the Man United women's team are doing so well. For the woman that, you know, they could have a break and then they're just like scrap the season. But I think, I don't know, I think with the men's game there's enough money in it, enough testing where there's just going to be postponed games, matches behind. But I don't see them going on a long break. I think they can maybe have, it just depends on really cases in the country and what the government does as a whole. But maybe a break. But I think the women's game is probably under more pressure, because obviously the top of the league, and if they have a break, they're less likely to come back, because it's just less mainstream, as you said earlier, pretty much. So I hope we don't have a break, but I wouldn't be surprised if we got one. Yeah,
but I agree with you completely. And you have to think, obviously, women's football, like you said, there's less money going into it, and I was just fear for it. I was just praying that obviously everything it just pulled through. Last time it did, and I'm praying it does it again. And like I say, this season, United being top of the league, I'm just buzzing to get it done, to be honest with you. I want to see United as champion.
I mean, to me, Soph, I want to go and have all my virus and if whatever, and then May, I want to be able to go into Old Trafford and see the boys, and I want to be able to go to Lee and see the girls, and I want us to have a bloody big trophy parade and 2 buses. That's what I want.
Yeah, that is the absolute dream right there, isn't it, Nat? Those 2 buses going down the road as well.
Yeah, with trophies and just waving at them both.
Imagine that.
Nat'll be on the bus.
No.
You'll get on there.
Jump on, hanging off the side.
Guys, as always, it's been an absolute lovely show. I want to say a massive thank you to the guests that are coming on. I'll start with you, Alice. If you just let people know where they can find you on social media and give you a follow, and thanks again for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. Fox Football on YouTube, TikTok, and yeah, thanks.
Yeah, go and give her a follow. Some great content on there, definitely. Get you on again, definitely. Nat, thank you. I appreciate it as always. Let people know where they can find you, and appreciate the Barmy Army as well.
Yeah, Natalie _17 and Naughty Natty B on Instagram. But yeah, get on the Barmy Army, Barmy Army MUFC. Come follow us. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. You know, we're doing loads of content. If you just want to learn about the women's team, you know, see all the pictures, see all the connection with the fans and stuff. It's just great. And that was me, 12-0 up and shouting for the 13 for a beer in my hand. It's great women's football, man, and I just, you know, treat it the same. Come down, give it the support. The girls love it, and it's fantastic day out.
Brill. Go and give her a follow. Check out the Barmy Army as well. And she is right. I mean, me and Meg had a day with the Barmy Army against City, didn't we? And the atmosphere was just class. So I definitely, when we can go back, I'd definitely recommend going and watching the ladies play. It's good atmosphere. Meg, shout out your socials and let people know where they can find you as well.
Thank you for having me back on again. You can find me at Megan Camp with a little underscore at the end.
Go and follow her. And girls, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a great show. Guys, hit that like button, please. We'd appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button if you're new as well. And of course, if you haven't missed you in the chat, we don't do it on purpose. Just drop a comment afterwards. And me and Meg, and I'm sure the other girls will be checking as well, and we'll respond to you there. All that's left to say is keep smiling. Hopefully we're back to Watford at the weekend. Let's move on from that City defeat now. Striving upwards, positive. We've had a new signing in today as well. So exciting time.